This year on Great Chat, we watched AI grow up, venture enter its king-making era, reputations get stress tested, and careers unbundle, while the internet got louder and real power got quieter. I'm Ashley, and this week I'm joined by Helen, Mac, and Angela for the Season 3 finale and the final episode of 2025. Great Chat is brought to you by Mercury, the fintech used by entrepreneurs through every stage of company building. We use Mercury to run this podcast and love recommending it to other founders and fund managers. Try it for yourself. Visit mercury.com to join over 200,000 entrepreneurs who use Mercury to make managing their money unbelievably simple. Hey!
Hi, everyone.
Dad. Hi.
Oh my God. It's the end of the year.
December, baby. Let's go.
How are we here already? Insane.
Angela just got back from 2 weeks on the road, and what time is it in Zurich?
It's late in Zurich, but I will say this has never ever happened to me before in like all the trips I've taken, but the person I was seated next to on this 12-hour flight was this very like tall, attractive, blonde Swiss man, and I was just like, this happens in real life. Like, you are seated next to attractive people in real life, except that I was like disgusting and just like trying to be a troll and watch Emily in Paris. So not my finest moment.
Was he wearing like a suit? Are these like those people you only hear about that like get dressed up for flights and you're like, what?
He was very dressed up for the flight, and then after takeoff he changed into like a comfy outfit, but he was like, he brought printed magazines, like not even just a Kindle, like printed magazines that he was like flipping through on this flight, and we engaged in like polite conversation, and it was like very lovely, you know, but it kind of like felt like one of those like office crush situations where I'm like, ooh, like I hope I'm like sleeping in a cute way, you know, like it'd be terrible if I was like drooling, you know, because
Angela,
honestly,
does your husband listen to this podcast?
He does. He's like a #1 fan.
I know, I just want to make a good impression, but like, yes, the Swiss Air product is like so terrible that there's actually no divider in between the seats. Like, you know, in United, you can pull it up. This is like, you just, there's no dividing line. It's just being like a generous companion, you know, you don't want to like be snoring or
I mean, it's like important for international relations.
Well, that's what they say when AI makes all of us redundant, like, you know, your appearance and sort of like that whole thing is the differentiators we have left. So congrats to this guy for crushing it and like being AI proof.
So we've decided the strategy to being AI proof is just be hot.
Yeah. I feel like that's generally accepted. I feel like that's
I do feel like people do value being hot. So like I don't hate it as a strategy overall. Sounds like a lot of work, but
I feel like people did not. For a hot minute. Like there was this time during like the NFT craze where people were putting like the fake profile pictures or like whatever. I was just like, I think that people. This is no,
just
not
kidding.
ugly people.
Just kidding.
Like, you know, my whatever fake AI generated profile picture is much more attractive than me. So like, I think just like, people were just like doing that. And I was like, oh, is this the future? The people never meet up in real life and we just have these virtual, I think for some people that is the future, or that future is now. But anyways, not for Angela and her Swiss airline companion.
I missed the era when hotness was not valued. I think that's
I know,
like
me
the
too.
only thing we can
I
count
think
on.
that might just be in Helen's head. I don't think that ever happened.
Oh my God.
I say that with love, friend. You know what I will say? One last thing on this topic. One of my very best friends in the whole world met her now husband on the airplane. They sat next to each other. It was a flight back to SFO from LaGuardia, and she sat next to this like hot Irishman, and they like didn't talk much on the plane, but like he caught her after as they were leaving, and he was like, hey, like I'd really love to see you again. And now they're married and live in Austin, and they're the cutest, most wonderful people.
Wow.
So
I love that.
It can happen. That's like a straight up rom-com plot, and it is one of my all-time favorites. They're such wonderful humans, and I love. It's perfect.
Oh my God. I can picture their wedding website. How we met.
Oh, they got COVID married, and they'd had to reschedule it twice. They ended up being friends and family, but it was at this gorgeous castle in Ireland. It was fabulous.
Well, for the avoidance of doubt to my husband who listens to this podcast, I was very clear in saying early on in our conversation that I was married with 2 kids. So there was no risk of romantic entanglement there.
Oh my gosh.
It's good we got that in.
Yeah, totally. What was the big headline this week? I saw you tweet a bunch of things about Wall Street Journal storytellers, so give it to us. And for Angela, who did not see that story,
Yeah, what is this? And the Wall Street Journal going viral. That's amazing.
I think the story actually was published a number of days before it went viral. I saw some like comms people sharing it, but basically it's a story about how a bunch of like tech companies, and I think the examples used are Notion and Chime and Vanta have either hired or are hiring storytellers. Like it's like this new role, this new function. And I think Notion in particular, like combined, it's like social media and content and comms, like under this like storytelling umbrella. And so, yeah, so it was just this, I don't know, it was like an article I read, like it was getting shared in some comms areas, and then like it went viral on Twitter earlier this week. And the hot takes were abundant.
What were your favorites?
Well, my hot take, no, just kidding.
Yeah, obviously hers.
I thought you had a great one.
So my main hot take is like you already have a chief storyteller, it's your CEO. And unless like they are embracing that role, there's no new function creation or like role title that will solve that. Of course, there should be people supporting the founder and CEO and like, you know, taking this vision and articulating it in different ways and different channels. But like, yes, like the CEO has always been the storyteller. Startups are stories about the future. Like if you can't tell that story, you're not going to get investors. You're not going to get your first hires. You're not going to get your first customers. So that was my hot take.
Yeah.
I think like it's just so funny when an article like sort of hits a nerve and then like everyone manages to find a way to frame it so that it supports their worldview or more importantly, like their self-worth. And so it was like simultaneously people in like comms and marketing, like, you know, using it to like bolster their value and like we were so important, and also people outside of those functions to be like, marketing and like PR sucks, we need something new. And like everyone saw it was like a mirror, like whatever you already believed was reflected back to you in that article. And I'm sure like 99% of people didn't read it. So the headline, the like little screenshot alone was enough.
Yeah, you're right. I thought it was most of the responses were like kind of in the category of like defensive, right? Regardless of what your role was. And my interpretation, I did not weigh in because I was like, oh, this is interesting when there were so many takes, is that it reminded me a little bit, and you said this too, about like how we rebranded marketing to growth. It's like, oh, marketing's not working, so let's have a chief growth officer, like no more CMOs. And I felt at the time when we did that, and this is similar, that like it's more of a reflection that there is a breakdown between the founders and the role of marketing or comms or growth or whatever, because they're like, well, this person that we have in this role, it's not working. They're not doing the job of a storyteller. So let's create this new function. Let's start over. And when you couple that with like, there's like a average of an 11-month tenure for like CMOs, that, you know, it just sort of, it goes hand in hand where it's like, well, something's not working, you know, and rather than repair it, it's like, we're looking for the wrong people. What we really need is a storyteller. And so I don't know if we're going to look that inward on this one, but yeah, great, cool, storytellers. Like I'm all about it.
It's so funny. I would have gotten like shoved in a locker if I had called myself a storyteller in my comms days. Like it would have sounded so precious and like elite, but now it is the word of the people. I mean, I do think there is something that has like, so I think good comms people have always been good storytellers, but in the era when like you were mostly working with media to tell your story, you didn't have to be a great storyteller to have have that pull through, right? Like I feel like a lot of the, like in this go direct era, a lot of the stories feel so two-dimensional to me. Like it's all just growth and valuation and hustle culture and vibes. And I feel like I have like just far less of a sense of like who these people are and what they believe in than I did in prior eras of tech. And I think a lot of that is because the storytelling is very flat and two-dimensional. Like we are in this like very lazy era. And media used to fill in a lot of those gaps for us and like round out these characters and like make them larger than life and like push them with interesting questions. And now when founders are just able to like take to Twitter on their own,
Right.
or
Do a
make a hype
podcast.
video, or
Yeah, you can see more of them than ever before, which is ironic, right? That they're more visible than ever, yet they're less of a story than ever.
I wonder if it's really that. I wonder if it's lazy storytelling. I do think that like media necessarily tends to be incredibly good storytellers, but I also think that founders today and always have to be very good storytellers to hire the type of people that you have to hire, to close the type of money you have to hire, that you have to close. I think you have to be an incredible storyteller. I think that this might be different because I think that the public is used to these stories. I think that it's not the problem of storytelling as a skill, but rather of the model being fairly derivative. We keep hearing the same archetypes and we're sick. I think like generally as a culture, like we've heard the boy genius, we've heard the disruption, we've heard I started in this industry and I saw that it was a problem. So I discovered the SaaS solution. Like we've all heard that before. And then also the like huge dollar valuations are exhausting because they don't tell you anything material, but they are impressive. And that's what people will default to because to your point about laziness, I do think that that's lazy, but it's a proven playbook. That's why people go for it. So I think that part of it is because we're not doing as much of this like in-depth one-on-one media and getting pushed by like exceptionally good storytellers. But I also think that part of it is just that like if we want to talk hype cycles, I think tech as a commodity or tech as a brand is in a low point in its hype cycle. And I think a lot of that is due to the lack of innovation in the way we tell stories.
Because it's so dominant? Like, what do you mean by low point?
Yeah, it's been dominant. It's been dominant for 20 years. And I think like it's partially because we keep telling the same stories. And I think it's also partially because those stories have proven to be very like wildly different from what the lived reality of everybody else's experiences.
But isn't that what like isn't AI supposed to be like, aren't there all these explosions of new things that are different than the past cycle? I thought that was like the whole point of this new cycle, which was we were super late product.
I think it's the same shit on steroids. It's like higher dollar valuations, but the story is still the valuations. Like nobody's talking about like, look at all the amazing things that have happened to random people because of AI. People are talking about, look at how much money OpenAI raised this week. People are talking about, look at how many billionaires got created.
Did you not see that a Japanese woman got married to her AI boyfriend? So don't say that great things aren't happening to people.
It was like a whole ceremony. She's like in her dress. I unfortunately did see that. I listen, when I say the stories are lazy, I think they're lazy because they can afford to be. So Mac, I kind of agree with you. Like the valuations are making investors and ARR are making investors feel FOMO. It's making talent feel like opportunistic. I think we're in this era where tech is mostly talking to tech. And as like people who are students of company building and who like love like breaking records and also like the AI platform shift is just doing so much work. Like people don't have to do as much storytelling. It's like, yeah, like we grew 10x and we have all these amazing investors who came in 2 months after our last investors. And so you don't actually have to like really get into like what do we stand for? Who are we for? How do we want to change the world?
That's a good point, right? Where we didn't disclose valuations, right? We kept the cards a little close.
And it was mission, like everyone.
Yes.
Everything was like democratizing, right? And you can be really cynical about that now because like, well, is Facebook a democratizing force? But everything lived at the intersection of like mission and then like the cloud and mobile platform shifts, and every story was about like access and changing the world and connecting people, and this is just numbers go up era.
Unless you're in defense tech, I will say like it does feel pretty lit out here. I feel very mission. I can't shut up about it. I'm having the time of my life. It feels like 2014 where I am. It's been very fun to see, like, to your point, like we literally don't disclose valuation. We talk about the things that we're doing. I work every day with people who come from vastly different backgrounds. I see prosperity in action. I love it. It's been amazing. But I do agree with you that like in the broader tech ecosystem, it's not.
I think the defense tech industry, and I'm not like, I don't invest in defense tech. And so I'm like looking at this from like the outside. There is this like broader, like very dramatic geopolitical narrative that is the backdrop to everything. And so I think like the stakes are clear. to people, regardless of how you feel about like, you know, billions and billions going into defense tech. And so that helps make the story more tangible, and it's highly relevant for people who aren't on the cap tables of those companies in a way that sometimes the AI narratives feel like, oh yeah, good, congrats to the investors. Which, you know, is not the sentiment of like everyday, like, you know, Americans. So I don't know. I think 2026 things will shift, but they'll have to shift. And maybe this storyteller's mania is like a, you know, an early indication of that.
Shifting gears slightly, did you guys look at the Vanity Fair photos of the White House staff?
Only after you texted them to me.
Something that we've talked about is like the injection sites that they left on poor Caroline Levitt. And honestly, I mean, not a fan, but like, I feel for her. I would assume that Vanity Fair would have like the most bomb like retouchers in the world, right? So like people are like, did they not think that they would do, you know, close-ups, or that they would have photos? I'm like, yeah, no, I think they did know all those things were happening, but I think they thought that there would be like a post-production, and there absolutely was not. So yeah, I don't know. It was hard. I felt sympathy for a second.
I saw like this great juxtaposition of like, it was like the caption was something like, you can tell who when Vanity Fair likes their subjects. And it was like these recent Pedro Pascal, whatever, and then these photos.
Right.
And it is, but I think it's not to like always like bring it back to like a startup or founder audience, but like I think a lot of times, obviously Vanity Fair, you're thinking a lot about the photos, but like I think a lot of times people think of photos as an afterthought. There's like the content, the article, the interviews, and like, oh, we're going to do some photos. Oh, okay, great. I'll wear a cute outfit or whatever. And this is where so many stories over the years have just gone wrong. And like these publications are incentivized to get you to do very like, you know, noticeable and visually interesting things. And I remember Aaron Levy of Box had a chance to be on the cover of a magazine if he would wear like a unicorn like thing over his head. And we said no, and then someone else did it. You have to think about your like the visual elements of your brand too. And I think maybe there was like was it Klinkle? Someone like was photographed like lighting money on fire. Like they're gonna try to get you to do things that people are going to talk about. And so
the lesson that I've taken away from this is like always read the contract and ensure that like retouching is in there. That's the lesson for everyone from this debacle.
That's the lesson. Or come prepared, like Swiss banker guy on the airplane.
Yeah.
Don't get your lip injections the day of the photo shoot, you know.
It's very hard to negotiate like rights with photos. Like you have to be a real celebrity to do it. And so like I've tried to negotiate for like photo review and things like that. And usually with these profiles, you have like very little power. So I do actually feel some empathy.
With any legit media, you don't get any creative control. Like your only control is in how you present yourself. And that is brutal, because I don't think that you expect that what you're going to get is a zoomed in shot this close of your face, like
of your pores.
Like I think that's brutal. Like up to everybody to decide what they think about it, but it's definitely not what you would, not even like, even if you thought that there was a chance it was going to be a hit piece, I don't think that most people expect that. But Vanity Fair did its job. So
okay, my favorite headline of the week, because it allows me to continue to beat this drum. So open evidence, which is like Chat GPT for doctors, which if you don't use, it's like, maybe you or like one of your friends used to go down like WebMD rabbit holes? Like that's like the Web 2.0 version of this. I have now discovered open evidence, and I am going down many rabbit holes a day. But anyway, open evidence.
You're using open evidence.
Don't you need a doctor's like email address to get access?
You just start using it. You land on the website and just start using it. So like any question you would have asked Google or like on WebMD, you just ask open evidence.
Wow, I ask like ChatGPT all of my health questions.
Exactly.
I should move over.
I don't know how different they would be, except for open evidence is like citing research, right? Citing like the journals instead of like maybe ChatGPT has a variety of sources. But anyways, they are raising $250 million on $12 billion of revenue, or ARR. And
wait, no, they don't have $12 billion of ARR.
Sorry, on a $12 billion valuation.
Okay.
Based on $150 million run rate. I think the things that were interesting about this is that they've got less than 1 million users, and something like 90% gross margins. And so like this brings me back to the hill that I will die on, that like ads are the perfect business model. And I think there was some commentary about like this is going to make a lot of AI companies wake up to the fact that like, yeah, ads are pretty good. So my like prediction based on this is like I think OpenAI will probably introduce ads next year softly.
Wait, so their core business model is ads?
It's also subscriptions by doctors, of course, right? But it's just like if you think about there being less than 1 million users on the platform, because like, you know, if the doctors are the only ones that are paying for it, it's like how are they making money from everyone else? And it's people like me who are searching, right?
So like ads on the free product, like doctors aren't being served ads while
No,
they're like treating a patient and looking for,
right.
okay.
But anyways, like I think there are so many companies right now. Like I saw this guy super smart on Twitter that was like, I would I wish somebody would play me like a high value piece of content that I could like learn something while I'm waiting for like the model to sort of like generate and spit out, you know, whatever I'm looking for. I'm like, you mean like pre-roll? You mean like a blockbuster movie, you know, trailer? You know, like these very premium Super Bowl quality style ads that I think people would not find, you know, spammy or distracting, but like kind of entertaining and enjoy while they're waiting for AI to process. And anyways, so maybe 2026 will be the year of ads. So we were looking at like big themes. Like this is our first year of the podcast. We did 3 seasons, and you know, what were themes that emerged? I think, you know, as expected, we talked a lot about like sort of marketing and messaging and how things were received by different audiences. But I think there were like definitely of the headlines that we, you know, discussed and analyzed, like a couple of things stood out. And like, what do those things mean for what's ahead? And so the first one, you know, I think like one of our first episodes was like, nobody cares about bad behavior anymore, but it's like this idea that like people don't have shame anymore, right? So like Deal was a really big storyline of the year, and you know, watching Deal's VCs sort of rush to their defense was super interesting. Maybe that's now like the standard value ad that founders are looking for from their lead investors. It's like, what do you think happens there?
I thought the deal thing was really interesting because the investors were very quiet at first. Like when the, you know, the big honeypot reveal dropped, like no one was talking. And then it was like everyone sort of gathered around for, I think when they did their big revenue moment, like
Right.
was like sort of the big public pushback. And so it was kind of a strong message that like what really matters is growth, and this like hasn't hurt us, and this company is growing, and so we're going to stand behind them, and like the honeypot, the spy, like none of that matters. So yeah, it's an interesting lesson for everyone to learn on the timeline.
Yeah. So, like, I mean, what do you think happens? You know, is this the new normal? And is this like something that, you know, founders should expect? Like, they'll cite this use case for like their expectations. I mean, agree that like VC stayed very quiet, but I feel like now because Deal continues to like crush it from a growth standpoint, they're more, you know, vocal in their support.
I not speaking to the deal example specifically, but like in general, I think the biggest thing that I've changed my mind on is I used to think in a crisis, the most important thing was like moving quickly. And now I think the most important thing is not overreacting. And
Mm,
part of that is because
like
like cultural
Streisand
norms
effect.
have shifted.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But also because like we're just also bombarded with news, and so much crazy shit is happening every day. And so like the internet might be like all consumed with honeypot jokes for like, you know, 12 hours, and then people move on. And so again, I'm not saying like hire a spy or do anything fraudulent, but like if you are in a crisis, like take a deep breath and don't like add fuel to the fire,
Yeah.
because
You
I
called this
just
Hubermaning it, right?
yeah, yeah, exactly. He just played through. And that worked for him. So I think that's like the main lesson I take from this is like you can really only cancel yourself. And so like just breathe before you do that. Like I remember the apology notes era where everyone was using the notes app, and
Oh, yeah.
like it was just like
Screenshotting, right, right.
yeah, new screenshots dropping every day, and we are out of that. We are somewhere new. And yeah, like things that feel really big, like wait 10 minutes, they might not feel big. after a few more news cycles pass.
That's so funny. I remember one of the partners at my fund was talking about how you present like a deal, not deal the company, but like bring a deal to committee. And he was saying like, always just say all the bad things up front, because people will like attack it and say what they want to say. And then once they say it, like it's done. Like they can't just keep repeating themselves. Right. So it's a little bit of like, just like let the wave crash and then you move on. So yeah, just power through.
That's actually how I run all my updates. I always just lead with here are the things that aren't tracking, because that's usually what people are holding their breath waiting for. That's usually what the tension is in the back. And so you're just like, let's start with that. Let me tell you what's getting dropped, and then I'll tell you what I'm dropping it for, and then we can make sure that we're on the same page. But to your point, like I think that part of I wonder if the lesson is that nobody cares about bad behavior anymore, or nobody has an attention span that can withstand the volume of information we get.
Like people can't even sit and wait for their models to run, like we need to be entertained in the 30 seconds or
Totally.
Probably longer, but
By the way, I also like this strategy for dating. Just like, here are all my flaws.
I don't know if it works in that context.
Yes, because when that came up, it was that guy
back
with the dating doc, and I don't
what
feel like
happened
he
to
was
him?
forthright. He was not forthright about the,
Wait, no, but we talked about whether or not there'd be a redemption arc there. Did that ever happen, or did he just drop off of Twitter?
I don't know. I feel like he no longer, he's not a character.
He's not in my feed anymore, which I'm fine with. I think it would be a power move.
Did you guys see that the woman at the Coldplay concert, she just did like a profile on the Wall Street Journal? She emerged.
Oh, did you see the comments on that?
I don't want to look at the comments. No. She was saying she got death threats. That's crazy. Yeah.
I think the comments were not death threats. The comments were just like, what, like, you were hypocritical. You're doing this profile to talk about how you were thrust into the spotlight. Everyone has moved on. And now you're thrusting yourself into the spotlight again, and like we're all just supposed to feel bad for you, but like
how
you're doing
else would
this
she get like the last word? How else would she?
But no one cares. No one actually cares.
I don't disagree that the reception is that people were like, "Why is this woman?" But like the publication cared enough that they thought that this would be interesting enough to run.
I think it's really hard to empathize with what it's like to be the like butt of whatever the internet moment is, unless you've actually experienced it. Like, I mean, I haven't, thank God. I hope I never do. But it's like, I can only imagine just like being someone who reads some of the comments sections, which like I don't suggest, not healthy, not fun, deeply unenjoyable, but being the subject of that and being the subject of that on that scale, especially because people seem to be willing to give death threats for anything.
You need like a lot of buffer time. Like the two best examples I can think of are Monica Lewinsky and Justine Sacco. Obviously like very different
stories.
Oh my gosh,
Justine Sacco. Is that the IAC South Africa?
Yeah, that's the like, has Justine landed yet or Sacco landed yet? Yes, yes. And like, I mean, that was everyone just piled on. And it was before that was happening all the time on the internet. So I think it also just felt so dramatic. And like she years later, came back and talked about it. And so I think that worked really well. I think this is just too close to the news cycle.
She should have held it for another year.
Yeah, but like most people aren't comms people. Like I do think it's a very human thing to respond like immediately and just be like, you guys, what the fuck? Like as soon as like, some reputable news source comes to you and says, hey, I have a platform. Do you want it? Like, I think a normal person would be like, yeah, I want to talk back. Like this sucks. This has been so miserable for me.
Totally. I get why she did it. I also, if I were her like friend, I would say, don't do it. Don't do the somber photo looking out the window, like you're gonna become a meme again.
At least they retouched those photos. It could have been worse. Could have been worse.
Everyone who doesn't know Ashley, treat Ashley's advice as if she's your friend, because that is good advice.
Just try to become my friend, guys.
I thought her including the dog was good. Speaking of photos, it was just sort of
okay.
Like,
I literally saw comments really like, why would you drag the dog into this?
Oh God, no! I mean, people don't all read the comments. So
I love being real. I actually missed this entire news cycle. I missed the first round and I missed this round, so I have no idea who we're.
You did not miss the first round because you literally memed yourself into the Coldplay Kiss Cam video. Yeah.
Oh, I did. You're right. I did do that. That was a fun time.
You did not miss that.
But I missed the second one. I did miss her coming out saying her
It
story.
was just like 2 days ago. It wasn't even, It's maybe it's good that it didn't really like make a blip.
I can't believe I already forgot the Coldplay story. That was a big story. Speaking of having no attention span.
My connection of like things we talked about, women, big year. I feel like 2025 was kind of a big year for Katy Perry. I mean, she made it to space.
Oh my
She
God.
held it down for women of
Incredible arc.
STEM. She met with
Incredible
government
arc.
leaders. Like, incredible arc for her.
She also had like a horrible album release and like was sort of made fun of, but now, right, I feel like she's kind of on top.
Yeah,
And
she wrote a whole hype cycle in 1 year. That's badass.
yeah, no, I agree. That's a great
I
point.
feel like she's been through the ringer with this before too. Like Katy Perry is someone who has probably experienced as much public love and outrage in a short amount of time as humanly possible. She must just be the most resilient person.
Yeah, I think I saw a video of her and Justin Trudeau at like a sushi restaurant and they looked like genuinely happy. And somebody put a side by side of like her at that same sushi restaurant with Orlando Bloom and she looked like dead. And I felt like, oh, that is a powerful video, right? Because that really changes like the story on like, oh, she's just so happy. And I think you want to see people happy and healthy. And
We love
I don't know.
love on this podcast.
Yes, we love on this podcast. So, yes. Another theme that we had was sort of like around the careers that we've had and like what do you do after, you know, you decided to climb the ladder as fast as you can. And there are many paths you can keep climbing the ladder. And what does that look like? Or like, I think we got a lot of questions around like, you know, I'm thinking about a career in venture. I'm thinking about leaving venture. I'm thinking about taking an operating role at a venture firm or starting a fund or you know, how do I weigh this hot startup versus this other less hot startup, but seems more stable? And so I think something that was interesting was, you know, the backdrop of like there being less and less jobs, right? Like I think unemployment is on the rise. But people are not holding on as much as we thought. It's just like people are actually looking around and thinking about, you know, what they want their careers to look like in the whole. And a lot of this requires like being able to, you know, have your own predictions about what the future looks like. That's really interesting for me because I feel like we live in an information overload, like completely saturated. You can find all the, you know, skeletons in the closet and you find all this information about how the company's doing. Yet people don't have like as much certainty about the decisions they're making in their careers than they did before. And so that's interesting. And I wonder where that all goes next year. You know, I think a theme that we saw in the backdrop too was like this great bundling and unbundling, right? And so like there was a lot of consolidation, whether it was mega firms, you know, OpenAI doing a bunch of acquisitions, like Google doing acquisitions. Like next year, you know, is it just more of that? And what does that do with role elimination? And like, what does that do to the job market? So I don't know. Any thoughts about what you think the job market will do next year?
If I had to like just make one hot prediction, I feel like the story this year was like young people are screwed, entry level people are screwed. And I mean, I'm sure that is actually unfortunately going to continue to be true in a lot of industries. I just think that young people are going to adapt and they're going to like use these new tools to their advantage, and maybe it's like the middle manager layer that's in trouble. And so anyways, I think we'll just see the narrative shift a little bit about who are the winners and the losers, especially when it comes to AI. I think it's like very self-serving when like people who are senior in their careers are like, there are no more entry-level jobs. And I don't know. I refuse to believe, I mean, maybe it would be to my personal benefit to believe, but I just think we're like things are not going to be quite as linear as we think they are. So maybe 2026, the young people will have their revenge.
That's great because being a middle manager sucks. Nobody wants to be a middle manager. I hope AI automates all of that like away. But
Okay, managing itself sucks, but there is something really nice about being a middle manager, I think.
you
Hot
have
take.
responsibility, but you also have no control. It's like the worst of everything.
Oh, wow. Okay, I have a different take. My hot take on middle management is it's actually kind of the dream because you have enough power and control and ability to affect outcomes that like you can see the regular output and process of your work. But you don't have the insane isolation that you get at the top. You don't have the weight of like hundreds of jobs on your head. You don't have like, I think being like, I don't know, I wouldn't really want to be a founder personally. I enjoy being a middle manager, middle management apologist over here.
You're like the last person I think of when I think like middle manager energy. But like actually maybe the hottest take is like more people are going to be ICs because like the
I love
especially
ICing.
in tech careers, it was like unless you were an engineer or maybe a really great salesperson, the only way to progress up was to like manage people. And so you were sort of forced, whether or not you loved managing or not, that was like the only path available to like ascend within an organization. And as we rethink how teams are built, as we like rethink like, you know, like what role agents play alongside humans, maybe we don't force people into manager roles if they don't want to be people managers. And maybe we make the people who are really exceptional people managers, like they can still do that, but we're just like, there are just way more ICs, including senior ICs, like across functions, not just in the ones where that's historically been an option.
I just wonder how that happens. And like, maybe this is me like in a +1 for like humanity and like humans, but being in like, for example, being in person in Zurich, there is just such a different energy than being virtual, than being over Slack. And so much of the body language or negotiation or reaction is about reading the person across the table from you and not the issue at hand. And I just wonder how AI agents get to a place where they have enough like of a feedback loop to really be like managing a team of ICs, unless those ICs are all just automated.
I don't think the agents are managing the ICs, although maybe that's possible. I think it's just like as a senior IC, maybe you just are able to cover so much more ground instead of having to hire to increase your scope. You know, you're more efficient because you have like AI at your disposal.
Well, I'm thinking about like how return to office has been like another big theme this year. And for a lot of people, you know, especially young people who are kind of moving into that middle management role, like this is their first time having to manage like in person. And at least the stories that I hear, just sort of anecdotally of people reaching out and sort of like, you know, talking about transition, that's a tough one. And so I think it's one thing to like manage virtually, right? And now a lot of those folks are fully in office and there's like this whole, you know, like in-person dynamic that I think is interesting for people to figure out. So we'll kind of revert back to the norm. All right, last topic. Who controls the narrative and who it actually reaches? So we kind of compared people who are going direct versus people who are using the media. And I think in some cases, we had that conversation a couple of weeks ago about like, well, when you're the bigger brand, you know, you don't have to acknowledge smaller brands. And then we thought it was a misstep when the New York Times, like, you know, retweeted David Sachs's tweet and said like, oh, well, actually, here's a statement from us. And that was like playing into the sort of trap that he was laying out, that he is sort of like this smaller, you know, like David in the David and Goliath war. And next year, curious if, you know, what we'll see with regard to institutions, because I think another big theme of this year is just like the breaking down of institutions. Like Go Direct wasn't just a manifesto for comms. I think it was like actually for like applicable across so many things. Like there's like a real decentralization of power, and like a lot of our institutions are like, you know, just going through, I think, what is the natural shedding and evolution of what they would go through. Kind of curious if, you know, we think that there will be a furthering of this. Like, is it just, it'll continue to crumble? It is a midterm election year, right? Who does it benefit when things sort of break down? Or who does it benefit when institutions like start to regain power? Like, what do you think will happen at the New York Times?
But isn't this just the cycle of every bundling and unbundling? Like cable bundling and unbundling, right? Like the first wave was like all these bundles of cables, and then consumers like, we want choice, we want to go direct, and then like everything unbundled, and then they're like, too much, and we realized that like only 5 channels ever made money, so now we're like rebundling again. You know, Netflix is acquiring Warner Brothers, or maybe Paramount is acquiring Warner Brothers. And I think we'll find the same thing. Like startups are like, if we go direct, we can reach our audience, but then they find out only 10 founders have a voice, and then like everything kind of like rebundles again over some period of time.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the sort of leveling in power, or the leveling of the playing field between people with like a very large Twitter following, or just having a large audience, whether it's through a newsletter or a podcast, right? Like we're seeing how influential those platforms are, and you know, they've been increasingly so. But I think like, do we reach a saturation point? I mean, one thing we were talking about is like, how many Substack subscriptions is too many, right? Like until where you're just like, you know what, I think I'm gonna just like subscribe to the Washington Post or something where it's like, you know, like, and this is where I think Substack being a venture-backed company where they're having to like have, you know, crazy growth year over year is not great for the user because I don't want to be subscribed, you know, like they'll send you, you know, you might like this one, you might like this one. And I get why that's good for growth, but I just don't know if that's a great user experience. So like, I kind of have this take that like, yes, it'll go back and forth and maybe we're close to reaching the saturation point of like how many stacks you can be subscribed to.
I do also feel like with the go direct and with the like institutional versus like more I don't know a great way of referencing the go direct path, like populist. That's not right either. That it's not the same. It doesn't mean the same thing. But you know, like the more like public approach is that I think to a certain degree, it's an illusion of choice. I think like to your earlier point, this idea that like you can reach people if you go tell your own story on these platforms that are publicly available is only true for some people. And I think like, while it's more true than it's ever been, I think like what people are probably going to find if that becomes most people's social media strategy is that it's just as noisy as it used to be in the New York Times' inbox. But instead of having it be an editor who has a vested in like who has a financial interest, it's just like, let's go battle out for attention. And you're battling against everyone's new obsession with ads. And you're battling with
what a great place to stop.
And
very loud.
To call out for any of our listeners only, you really need to tune into the video for Mac's amazing Christmas color themed.
It is it's my Christmas outfit. We're having our Christmas party tonight, so I've got so much Christmas on.
Is that like a gift bow around the waist? Yeah.
Okay. Well, first of all, yes, it absolutely is. But
no, it's like $1,000 couture belt that Mac has bought.
More like Gucci. More like the Gucci. Yeah.
Well, it kind of does have Gucci colors.
It does.
I didn't think Gucci next to the red dress. It doesn't look Gucci on a red dress. I just thought that it looked like maybe it came with the dress, but it's okay that it looks like a wrapping paper. That's embarrassing. But
oh my gosh, we'll have fun at the Christmas party. It's good to see you guys.
And I miss you guys. This is so wonderful.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Bye. Holidays.
Thank you for listening to Great Chat. Have questions for us? Make sure to submit them at anothergreatchat.com. Have a great holiday.